Good beans at home, but taste feels wrong. Tools can help your brew grow strong. Scale it right, let numbers show. Burrs grind even nice and slow. Gooseneck pours a gentle stream. French press V60, Moka dream.
PASA coffee, sip and see. Homebrew tools bring harmony.
From Burr Dubai, we show the way. Better coffee starts today.
PASA Coffee Podcast.
Episode 13.
That feeling when you finally decide to treat yourself to a really nice bag of specialty coffee beans.
Oh, yeah, best feeling.
Right. You bring them home, you open the seal, and that beautiful rich aroma just completely fills the kitchen. You're so excited.
Yeah, can't wait to brew it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you actually brew it, you take that first sip, and it is just, it's just flat. Or, intensely bitter. Or inexplicably sour, like lemon juice.
Oh, it's the worst.
It really is. And you're standing there thinking, did I buy the wrong beans? Is this whole specialty coffee thing just a giant overpriced scam?
This is an incredibly frustrating moment, and it's honestly one that almost every single beginner experiences.
Yeah, I bet.
The instinct is always to blame the beans, right? But the surprising truth is that almost every time, the problem isn't agricultural. It's mechanical.
Wait, really? Mechanical?
Yeah, I mean, the bottleneck is the actual setup you're using to brew it at home.
Well, which is exactly what we are getting into today. So, welcome to this deep dive into the PASA Coffee Beginner Series, broadcasting straight from Burr Dubai.
Glad to be here.
And if you've been with us on this journey, we've been following the coffee plant, very much like that beautiful botanical branch you see in the PASA logo.
Right, from the very beginning.
Yeah, we've tracked the cherry from origin and processing all the way through the chemistry of roasting, roast levels, and, the degassing phase.
So we've basically covered the entire life cycle of the bean up to the point where it just sits on your kitchen counter, rested and ready.
And this is where theory turns into practice, right?
Exactly. Our mission today is to just cut through all the influencer hype.
Oh, there's so much hype.
So much. We are going to ignore the luxury stainless steel countertop aesthetics and identify the strictly essential homebrewing gadgets you actually need.
Just the essentials.
Right. And more importantly, we're going to look at the underlying science of, why they actually matter.
Because honestly, buying beautiful, perfectly roasted specialty beans, but using a bad home brewing setup, it's basically like buying a high-performance sports car and then driving it on mismatched, cheap, bald tires.
That is a perfect analogy.
You're simply never going to experience what that machine was built to do,
Yeah, the engine's power is entirely useless if it can't grip the road. And in coffee brewing, our grip is our baseline of control.
Okay, baseline of control.
Right. Without establishing that baseline, you're essentially just rolling the dice every morning, hoping you randomly stumble upon the flavor profile the roaster intended.
Which is not a great strategy for your morning coffee.
Not at all. And the tool that gives us that grip, it isn't a shiny espresso machine with pressure gauges. It is a simple digital gram scale.
Okay, see, I think people naturally expect the first recommendation to be the actual brewer. Tell me what machine to buy.
Yeah, that's what everyone asks first.
But we have to establish what we are starting with. So let's talk about the standard plastic coffee scoop. Because for decades, that has been the default measuring tool in kitchens around the world.
Oh, the dreaded scoop.
Right. But a scoop measures volume, not weight. And that is a fundamental flaw when dealing with roasted coffee.
It is, because volume is incredibly deceptive. During the roasting process, coffee beans undergo cellular expansion.
Okay, break that down for us.
So a dark roast bean has been subjected to heat for a much longer period than a light roast, right?
Right.
Because of that prolonged heat, more moisture is cooked out of it, and the cellular structure expands further. The bean actually becomes significantly larger, highly porous, and much lighter in actual mass.
I always visualize this like popping popcorn.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Because before you pop it, a popcorn kernel is tiny, dense, and heavy.
Yeah.
But after you pop it, it expands. It gets huge, airy, and incredibly light. So if you take a cup of unpopped kernels and a cup of fully popped popcorn, the volume is identical, but the weight is drastically different.
And that is the exact physical reality of light versus dark roasted coffee. If you take one visual scoop of a dark roast and one visual scoop of a dense, small, light roast, they look identical in the spoon.
But they're not.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Their actual the amount of dissolvable coffee compounds you're about to introduce to water is completely different.
Wow.
Yeah, so you might be using 12 grams of coffee one day and 18 grams the next, all while thinking you're being super consistent.
Wait, so if I've been using a scoop this whole time, I'm basically just trying to recreate a vague memory of a good cup, rather than actually following a reproducible scientific recipe.
You are flying completely blind.
That explains so much.
I mean, coffee brewing is fundamentally a chemical relationship between a solvent, which is the hot water, and a solute, the coffee grounds. If you don't know the exact mass of both, you can never reliably repeat a perfect cup.
So a digital scale fixes that.
Exactly. It introduces the concept of brew ratios. For a beginner, a universally solid starting point is a 1:15 ratio.
Meaning for every 1 gram of coffee, you pour 15 grams of water, right?
Spot on. So if you weigh out 15 grams of coffee beans on your scale, you pour exactly 250 grams of water.
It is just a mathematical formula that you can adjust logically. Like if the coffee tastes too strong and overwhelming, you don't just guess next time.
No, you adjust the ratio to 1:16. You just add slightly more water to dilute the extraction.
That makes total sense. Okay, so once we have that absolute control over our starting mass, the next hurdle is how we break that mass apart.
Yes. The water needs access to the compounds trapped inside the bean, and this brings us to the tool that arguably has the most dramatic impact on your final cup.
The burr grinder. I like to call this the flavor decider.
The flavor decider. I like that.
Let's assume most people know what a cheap blade grinder looks like. You have a little plastic cup with a spinning metal blade at the bottom.
Right, the spice grinder, basically.
Yeah. We need to talk about the physics of why that specific tool actively ruins extraction compared to a burr grinder.
It all comes down to surface area. A blade grinder doesn't actually grind coffee. It violently chops it at random.
Like a blender.
Basically, yeah. Because the blade just spins blindly, you end up with this chaotic mix of sizes. You get massive, intact chunks of coffee, which the industry refers to as boulders.
Boulders, okay.
Yeah, boulders, alongside microscopic dust-like coffee powder known as fines.
Which means you have, like, rocks and dust sitting in the exact same filter.
Exactly.
Think about boiling potatoes. If you take whole uncut potatoes and finely diced potatoes and throw them into the exact same pot of boiling water,
Right.
the tiny diced pieces are going to turn into absolute mush way before the big whole potatoes are even cooked through to the center.
The thermodynamics of coffee extraction work the exact same way. Hot water extracts different flavor compounds sequentially.
Meaning in a specific order.
Yes. First, it extracts bright fruity acids. Next, it extracts the sweet sugars. And finally, it breaks down the heavy, bitter tannins.
Okay, so acids, sugars, then tannins.
Right. So those microscopic fines have a massive surface area relative to their volume. The water penetrates them instantly, blowing right past the acids and sugars and immediately extracting the bitter tannins.
Oh, wow. While at the exact same time, the water can barely penetrate the outer shell of those giant boulders.
Exactly.
So those boulders, under extract, they only release their initial sharp, sour acids and never give up their sweet sugars.
Yep. So the resulting cup is this confusing, deeply unpleasant mix of sourness and bitterness hitting your palate simultaneously.
Which is exactly what we were talking about at the beginning. So how does a burr grinder fix this?
Well, a burr grinder solves this entire physics problem. Whether it's a motorized unit or a manual hand-cranked version, it uses two textured, conical, or flat plates, the burrs. The coffee beans are pulled between these plates and crushed to a specific uniform size. When every single particle of coffee is the exact same size, the water penetrates all of them at the exact same rate.
So the acids, sugars, and tannins release uniformly.
That is the only way to achieve clarity, sweetness, and balance in a cup.
And a quick golden rule for our listeners.
Yeah.
Always buy whole beans and grind them fresh right before you brew.
Absolutely non-negotiable.
Because the minute you break the bean's structure, oxidation accelerates, right? And it starts losing those delicate aromatic compounds to the air.
Literally within minutes. And for beginners looking to build a smart home setup, a high-quality manual hand burr grinder is almost always the best investment.
Over an electric one.
Yeah, because electric burr grinders require heavy motors and gearboxes, making them expensive. A hand grinder puts all your money into the quality of the burrs themselves.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's quiet, it takes up zero counter space, and it gives you ultimate flavor control for a fraction of the price.
Plus, the tactile ritual of hand grinding is just a really nice way to slow down in the morning.
I totally agree.
Okay, so we now have a perfectly weighed, uniformly ground dose of coffee. But introducing the hot water isn't just about dumping it on top of the grounds.
Definitely not.
The flow and turbulence of the water is the next major variable. And this is where the gooseneck kettle enters the picture.
Yeah, water flow dictates extraction evenness, especially in manual pour-over brewing.
So why can't I just use my regular kettle?
Well, a standard electric kitchen kettle is designed to boil water fast and pour it fast. The spout is short and incredibly wide. When you tip it over your coffee bed, the water gushes out violently.
Right, it aggressively digs a crater right into the middle of your coffee grounds. Creates what's called channeling, right?
Yes, channeling. The water finds the path of least resistance, rushes through that hole, and completely bypasses the rest of the coffee bed.
Leaving all that flavor behind.
Exactly. That chaotic turbulence ruins the uniform extraction we just worked so hard to achieve with our burr grinder.
So the gooseneck kettle fixes the turbulence.
Right. A gooseneck kettle features a long, elegant, S-curved spout that restricts the flow rate. It produces a slow, gentle, incredibly precise stream of water. You decide exactly where the water goes.
Okay, that makes sense.
And this precision is absolutely vital during the very first step of brewing, which is known as the bloom phase.
Let's explain the chemistry of the bloom. Because freshly roasted specialty coffee holds a massive amount of trapped carbon dioxide gas within its cellular structure, right?
Tons of it.
So when hot water hits those fresh grounds, that gas rapidly expands and violently forces its way out.
And the physical reaction is quite visible. I mean, the coffee bed bubbles, swells, and physically expands.
It's fun to watch.
It is. But the problem is that carbon dioxide actually repels water. While that gas is violently escaping, the water cannot penetrate the coffee particles to begin dissolving the flavor compounds.
So they're blocking each other.
Basically. So the bloom phase is simply the act of gently pouring a small amount of water to thoroughly wet the grounds, and then waiting 30 to 45 seconds to let the coffee just burp out that gas.
Burp out the gas, I love that. And if you pour violently with a standard kettle, that gas release is chaotic, and half your coffee bed remains dry and shielded by the CO2.
Precisely. The precision of the gooseneck allows you to systematically wet every single particle so they all degas evenly.
Now, what about temperature? I know the sweet spot for extraction is generally between 90 degrees and 96 degrees Celsius.
Right. Which can sound really intimidating to a beginner who doesn't own a digitally controlled kettle.
Yeah, it sounds like you need a lab setup.
But the workaround is actually incredibly simple. Just bring your water to a rolling boil, turn the kettle off, and let it sit undisturbed for about 30 to 60 seconds.
Oh, that's it.
That's it. That brewer resting period allows the heat to dissipate just enough to drop the temperature right into that ideal 90 to 96 degree pocket.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've established the foundation. We have the scale for consistency, the burr grinder for uniform particle size, and the gooseneck kettle for flow control.
The trifecta.
Yes. So the final component is choosing the actual vessel where this chemical extraction takes place. The brewer. And the brewer you choose fundamentally dictates the entire style, texture, and profile of the final cup.
It really does.
I always tell people choosing a brewer is exactly like picking out a pair of sunglasses.
Oh, I like that. Because you are looking at the exact same environment, but the lenses filter the light differently.
Yes. You can put on like yellow aviators or dark polarized lenses. The physical world hasn't changed, but your perception of it is completely altered. One lens highlights certain contrasts while another softens them.
Brewers do the exact same thing to a coffee's flavor profile.
Okay, so let's examine the mechanics of 3 beginner-friendly lenses. Where should we start?
Let's start with the classic French press. This utilizes a full immersion method.
Okay, meaning?
Meaning the water and the coffee sit together in a chamber, steeping like tea. But the defining characteristic of the French press is its metal mesh filter.
Right, it's not paper.
Exactly. Metal allows all of the natural heavy coffee oils known as lipids, as well as microscopic coffee particles, to pass right through into your cup.
And those lipids, they coat your palate, right? They create an emulsion that gives the coffee a very heavy, syrupy, thick body and a rich, bold taste.
It is a phenomenal brewer if you prefer deep, chocolatey, heavy-bodied coffees.
That is pretty easy to use too.
It is incredibly forgiving because it relies on immersion rather than a precise pouring technique. You just add water and wait.
But there are a couple of mistakes to avoid, right?
Yeah. The main technical errors to avoid are grinding the coffee too fine, which allows too much sediment through the metal mesh or failing to decant the coffee.
Oh, leaving it in the press.
Yes. If you leave the brewed coffee sitting on top of the pressed grounds, it will continue extracting and turn incredibly bitter.
Yeah, once it's brewed, pour it all out. Okay, let's look at the next lens, the V60. And just for our listeners, it's spelled with the letter V and the number 60, representing the 60-degree angle of the cone, but it is always pronounced V60.
Right, so the V60 is a percolation method. Water continuously flows through the coffee bed, but the crucial mechanism here is the paper filler.
The total opposite of the French press.
Yes, paper acts as the complete opposite of the metal mesh. The thick paper fibers use capillary action to absorb and trap almost all of those heavy lipids and microsediment.
Okay, so because those heavy oils are removed, the resulting liquid has a much lower viscosity.
Exactly. The mouthfeel is incredibly clean and light.
Without the heavy oils masking the delicate compounds, the V60 highlights the bright organic acids and floral notes.
It's amazing for that. If you have a light roasted Ethiopian coffee with notes of, say, jasmine and bergamot, the V60 is the lens that will make those specific flavors pop. It's very tea-like.
But that clarity demands precision, doesn't it?
Right. It does. Because the water is constantly draining, your pour rate dictates the extraction time. This is where the gooseneck kettle and the uniform particles from the burr grinder are absolutely non-negotiable.
Which brings us to the third option, the Moka pot. This is a classic stovetop brewer that completely changes the thermodynamics.
Right. Instead of gravity pulling water down, the Moka pot uses vapor pressure to push water up.
That sounds intense.
It is. The water sits in a sealed bottom chamber. As it heats on the stove, steam begins to build. This vapor pressure, usually reaching about 1 to 1.5 bars of pressure, forces the near boiling water up through a compacted bed of coffee grounds and into the top chamber.
And that pressurized extraction environment means the water is actively stripping heavier compounds and emulsifying oils much faster than a gentle pour over.
Yep. It yields a really aggressive, intense, highly concentrated shot of coffee.
It's not technically a true espresso, right? Which requires like 9 bars of pressure.
Correct, but it has that same heavy, punchy vibe. Because of that sheer concentration, the Moka pot is the ultimate home brewer if you love milk-based drinks like lattes or cappuccinos.
Because the intense coffee cuts right through the sweetness of the milk.
Exactly. The vital technique here, though, is grind size and heat management. If you use a powdery fine espresso grind, the water can't push through and the pressure will choke.
And if the heat is too high?
If you leave it on high heat for too long, you will literally scorch the coffee compounds, resulting in a burnt metallic taste.
Yikes. So we have the French press for heavy body, the V60 for delicate clarity, and the Moka pot for milk pairing intensity.
The takeaway here is to just ignore the elitism in coffee culture. There is no objectively best brewer in the world. There is only the best brewer for the specific texture and flavor profile that you personally enjoy.
Let's ground all of this theory into daily life, because I have to push back here for a second. We are throwing a lot of gear at the listener.
Fair enough.
Let's say you live in the UAE, right? Maybe working in Business Bay and living in an apartment in Dira or JVC. You're grabbing a latte from a cafe every single morning, spending, say, 20 to 25 dirhams a day.
Pretty standard.
You are telling someone who just wants to save some money to go out and buy a digital scale, a specialized burr grinder, a gooseneck kettle, and a brewer. Isn't that an intimidating, expensive barrier to entry?
It absolutely sounds like a high barrier to entry if you look at it as a single purchase. But we have to look at the daily economics.
Okay, let's do the math.
Spending 25 dirhams a day on a cafe latte equals about 125 dirhams a week, assuming you only buy one on weekdays. Over the course of a single year, you are spending roughly 6,000 dirhams just on your morning routine.
6,000 dirhams is an international flight and a hotel stay.
Exactly the point. A high-quality hand burr grinder, a simple digital kitchen scale, a stovetop Moka pot, and a bag of specialty beans from a local roaster might cost you a fraction of that up front.
So you break even on that investment in, what, a matter of weeks?
Yes. You aren't just buying gadgets. You are migrating a major annual expense in-house and building a genuinely rewarding culinary skill that requires very little space in a Bur Dubai or Kerma apartment.
Okay, that makes it very tangible. And to help you actually build that skill and train your palate, we want to give you a highly practical exercise. We call it the 3-day home brewing test.
This is the fastest way to demystify coffee science.
Okay, walk us through it.
Take your new scale, weigh out exactly 15 grams of coffee, and measure exactly 250 grams of water. On day 1, set your burr grinder to a medium setting and brew your cup.
And really taste it. Right?
Yes, taste it critically. Notice if it feels heavy or light, sour, or bitter.
Then on day 2, you keep the exact same 15 grams of coffee and the exact same 250 grams of water. The only thing you do is adjust your burr grinder 1 or 2 clicks finer.
Right. Brew it, taste it, and look for the shift. Because the particles are smaller, the water extracted more compounds. It will likely taste sweeter and heavier.
But if you went too fine, it might suddenly taste dry and bitter.
Exactly. Then on day 3, you run the experiment in the opposite direction. Same coffee, same water, but adjust the grinder slightly coarser than day 1.
So the larger particles mean less extraction. The cup should taste lighter, thinner, and perhaps a bit more acidic or pleasantly tart.
Right.
The golden, unbreakable rule of this 3-day test, and really all coffee brewing, is that you must isolate your variables. You can only change one single thing at a time.
This is so important.
If you change your grind size and you pour 300 grams of water instead of 250, and you decide to use hotter water, you have ruined the experiment. If the coffee tastes better, you have absolutely no idea which of those 3 changes actually fix it.
A simple home setup, used methodically and intelligently, will outperform a wildly expensive commercial luxury setup that is used randomly without understanding the variables.
Master the basics before you ever consider upgrading. Let's bring this all together and leave you with a clear roadmap for your home coffee arsenal. First, your digital scale. It is the foundation of your recipe. It gives you the mathematical consistency to repeat your successes and fix your failures.
Second, the burr grinder. It solves the thermodynamics of extraction, replacing the chaotic boulders and fines of a blade grinder with uniform particles that yield sweetness and balance.
Third, the gooseneck kettle. It prevents channeling and gives you the exact pouring control required to evenly saturate the coffee bed and manage the degassing bloom phase.
And finally, your chosen brewer, which acts as the lens for your final cup.
So the metal mesh of the French press for heavy, lipid-rich body.
The paper filter of the V60 for tea-like, acidic clarity.
And the vapor pressure of the Moka pot for concentrated milk cutting intensity.
It is a phenomenal, accessible roadmap.
It really is. And listen, if you are in Dubai and you want to actually feel these tools before you commit, or if you're the kind of person who learns best by physically doing it, visit PASA Coffee down in Burr, Dubai.
Their entire philosophy is rooted in approachability and education.
Yeah, they can walk you through the gear, and if you really want to master the physics we talked about today, you can explore their hands-on 12-day barista course.
Stepping into an environment where you can physically manipulate the grind size and instantly taste the result under professional guidance, it makes all the abstract theory click into place immediately.
It changes everything. So we've solved the mystery of the frustrating homebrew by controlling the mass, the particle size, the flow rate, and the filtration.
We covered a lot of ground today.
We did. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to Taiwan. Today, we focused entirely on the physical gadgets designed to perfectly manage the coffee bean. But if you stop and look at your final cup of brewed coffee, that liquid is literally 98% water.
Oh yeah, the bean is merely the flavoring agent for the water.
Exactly. So what happens if the tap water, or even the expensive bottled water that you are pouring so perfectly from that shiny new gooseneck kettle, fundamentally lacks the right chemical minerals, like magnesium, calcium, required to actually grab and bind to the flavor compounds inside the bean?
That is a whole other deep dive.
You've got the sports car, you bought the perfect tires, but what if the chemical makeup of the road itself is broken? Think about that next time you go to boil your kettle.
Good beans at home, but taste feels wrong. Tools can help your brew grow strong. Scale it right, let numbers show. Burrs grind even nice and slow. Gooseneck pours a gentle stream. French press V60, Moka dream.
PASA coffee, sip and see. Homebrew tools bring harmony.
From Burr, Dubai, we show the way. Better coffee starts today.
PASA Coffee Podcast.
Episode 13.